So they want to make sure that the laws were designed so that as people exercise caution, due diligence, they were responsible, they were good actors, though maybe not perfect, that they would be protected so that the bar would have to be pretty high before they could be liable. That was the whole nature of a limited COVID-19 liability shield. So they also are relieved of that 50% penalty of interest on it and the administrative burden and headache of collecting and remitting. It's increasing the favor and increasing equity to the citizens and taxpayers and hardworking taxpayers of Florida.
So welcome, folks. This is Tony Carvajal with Florida TaxWatch, and joining me today is Dominic Calabro. All of you know him across the state. Dominic, thank you so much for being here today. We had an exciting week, in particular because of one of the bills that we were advocating on and providing lots of guidance on, and that's the COVID liability shield. That was basically passed and signed in the same day. Tell us a little bit about what Floridians and Florida's taxpayers are going to benefit from in this bill.
The contribution that Florida TaxWatch made really began several months earlier. We worked in collaboration with some 49 other statewide organizations that were looking out to help reset Florida's economy. So they wanted to make sure that the laws were designed so that as people exercise caution, due diligence, they were responsible, they were good actors, though maybe not perfect, that they would be protected so that the bar would have to be pretty high before they could be liable. That was the whole nature of a limited COVID-19 liability shield. TaxWatch's role in it was, what's the economic cost to Floridians if we don't do this? And we were able to engage the resources of an outside consultant, economic consultant, to do an economic analysis. And we discovered if we do not act on that, there would be a loss of 356,000 jobs that cost about $28 billion. The second thing that TaxWatch did, Tony, that was really important, we wanted to gauge public support. So we partnered with Mason-Dixon in an independent analysis, an independent poll, which showed of those voters likely to vote statewide elections, 72%. Wow, 72% of the respondents said that they supported this endeavor. They thought it was reasonable. They thought it was appropriate under the circumstances. We were also asked, how do you feel about protecting healthcare workers? And that was covered by 74% of public support. So 72% for general businesses and 74% for healthcare workers.
We released the COVID liability shields in January, and I remember that impact, but we actually released those poll numbers you just mentioned during the State of the Taxpayer events that we had this year. And it was really impactful. And those reports, by the way, and we have about 5 or 6 different reports on COVID liability and the impact on the economy, are available at floridataxwatch.org. Go to our research tab there, and you'll find out what we were talking about in those items. While you're on that page, you may as well look at another item that we put up there, and that had to do with the Wayfair decision. The Wayfair decision really talked about remote sales. Dominic, I think you and Representative Clemens and a handful of others have really been talking about this for a little while, are changing the game in this. We are as close as ever on these bills in the legislature to pass this year. So tell the folks that are listening a little bit about remote sales and why it's so important. And, you know, we've got some special surprises in here because it wasn't just the Wayfair decision that folks have been listening to. There are 3 or 4 other issues that we've put out there that are being rolled into this package.
We were on this when very few people were. We were well informed. We rebuffed a lot of hysteria, misinformation. Sometimes that misinformation is still belted out today. This is not a new tax. It's been the use tax. Of the 45 states that have a sales tax, 45 out of 45 have a sales and use tax. It's just the use tax portion, which means if you buy something at another state, then the remote seller at that for many, many decades didn't collect and remit the tax. We didn't have the real good means and system to do so. the user, the Floridian, the Florida businesses, the Florida retiree, the Florida homeowner was legally responsible for bringing down the Department of Revenue R-19 tax form, filling it out and sending it in with their payment. Okay. Penalty for not paying the sales and use tax is as much as 50%. So what TaxWatch said is, look, the disrupting factor was the question of what constitutes presence. So a decision in 1992 by the United States Supreme Court said presence required physical presence. You had to have retail stores, you had a brick and mortar, you had to have distribution centers and things of that nature. Well, in 2018, Supreme Court decision in Wayfair versus, I think it was South Dakota. The other one was Quill versus North Dakota. The Dakotas apparently
Mhm.
very important about
Yeah.
this. Said it's not it wasn't physical presence, it was presence. Presence identified by penetration, by a sales force, by marketing folks, by the internet, all kinds of means that are not. So since then, and as of now, of the 45 states that have a sales and use tax, fully 43, only um, Florida and Missouri are the only two states that have not gone ahead and collected. And Florida, unlike other states, has a higher reliance on sales tax, about the second highest in the country next to Tennessee. So, for all kinds of reasons, to protect taxpayers, to promote the rule of law, to ensure equity and fairness and level the playing field, we felt strongly for 20 years. So now we said, listen, if it was going to be adding new revenue, let's reduce the business rent tax. Let's reduce the communication services tax. Let's reduce those taxes that are onerous and harmful to Florida's progress and economic vitality. Now, on top of that, now because of the pandemic, Florida had a nearly deplete its unemployment compensation trust fund. So the speaker, Senate president, and the governor said, "Hey, let's try to refill that." So that's the first thing that this bill will help do is they'll use these funds to replenish the sales and the unemployment compensation trust fund, TaxWatch priority, as well as then work to reduce the uh, this is called Business Rent Act. It's the sales and use tax on commercial rents. The other thing, and this is really important, that I really want to commend Representative Chuck Clements on, because many of his colleagues in the House are saying, yes, but if they weren't paying the tax before, they're going to pay now, then it's a tax increase. No, actually, it's a taxpayer penalty relief endeavor. So you basically simply remove the liability of the Floridian from having the burden, the legal liability to collect and remit it onto the remote out-of-state seller. So they also are relieved of that 50% penalty of interest on it and the administrative burden and headache of collecting and remitting. This is getting better and better, where it's increasing the favor and increasing equity to the citizens and taxpayers and hardworking taxpayers of Florida.
Dominic, you're so right. This bill is actually a pretty important one. It's going to spin off about $1 billion. And these are $1 billion that we've been missing out on already. And it does two other things. If you don't mind, just quickly, I know you said it replenishes the reemployment fund. So that takes the burden off of the businesses. I know you said that then it reverts to the business rent tax or the tax on commercial property leases. There's this other element about rounding, and this is pretty significant. It might be minor at the moment, but people are getting overtaxed at the moment because we use a bracket system to estimate how much is due in taxes, where this actually rounds it and gets it a lot more precise for individuals. Is that what I remember in this bill?
Yes, it is. Actually, it's one of the items that some of the lobbyists took a TaxWatch recommendation, and that is to instead of have these brackets where you sometimes could pay on the high end of that bracket, it's going to be just rounded to the nearest penny.
Dominic, thank you. I know this is a busy time, fifth week of session, and a lot going on.